Hello, everyone, and welcome again to our latest podcast of Stars in Our Sky. Uh, One of the podcasts that we focus on operational excellence, everything lean, running a business in general. Our last podcast, we spoke effectively about the journey of an entrepreneur, different stages, how the youngest stages, people that have been doing it for multiple years, and people that have been doing it just for the last decade. Uh, Definitely, depending on the industry, there's a lot of nuances and everybody has their journey. And that's why we're having these podcasts. Maybe one of our journeys will be similar to yours, or maybe you can even put in the comments and tell us what your journey looks like. Uh, Feel free to subscribe, ring that bell, and follow us for a lot more content. We have a lineup of amazing guests coming up right here with me. Rian from ClienT, Gabby from clien't, and your host, Malak Sedra with eSky Solutions online training. So let's get to the point. What are we talking about today, gentlemen, is a lot of times as consultants, we get approached because a client feels the need that they need an OPEX department. How do you start when a company doesn't even have the slightest clue or where they are? So Rian, what's your experiences when a client tells you need OPEX?
Well, Malik, to be honest, I mean, we don't get, usually we don't get people saying that. We just get people saying, my business is in chaos. I don't know what to do with it. I've tried all these different things. And now I'm looking at, this next thing, if it can work or not. So we usually go in, we go meet with the client, we go have a walk around and we see what they have. Depends on the type of business, obviously. And then we would start by making summaries and saying, okay, well, let's put a proposal together. Yeah. So we haven't even spoken about OPEX or Lean or Six Sigma or Agile or any of those methodologies. So then it's time to look at, okay, well, if the customer accepts the proposal or they want to do a workshop for kicking it off, the best way that we found in the past is to do a current state assessment of the business. Very extremely detailed. And that brings us to like a spider diagram that tells us we need to focus on the different areas. And then we got to try and figure out how are we going to do this? With what resources? And then the most important thing is the leadership team aligned to actually push this? Not just live with it, not just say, yes, it's okay, but actually to be actively involved in the whole.
Cancel.org, redefining global consulting, delivering world-class solutions through proven methodology, measurable and sustainable results.
So you originally go in, and I've heard you talk about, assessing, doing almost a maturity mapping, gap analysis. You go in with the suggestion to create an OPEX office, or are you there just in problem solving, trying to patch things to make sure that the paying customer is happy because you're solving his problem?
So there's two. I think there's two scenarios for us. Usually, it's either the one where the company, like their leaders, already know about Lean and Six Sigma.
Mm-hmm.
They already know about OPEX. They might get to a stage where it's like they've got too many projects to handle and they don't have the resources.
Mm-hmm.
So we provide the resources. With ClienT, we get our hands dirty. We will jump in anywhere and we'll come out covered in oil and we'll be happy. The other side of it is when they don't know what they need and we have to convince them or try and get them on board. And that process takes a bit longer where, then we do, assessments, we do work with HR, we do work with all the supporting services to see, if everyone's playing the game, if let's say there's one leader that's completely not on the chart, we usually deal with the CEO or the COO. And that becomes then, the management conversation. But we won't start. We've actually walked away from big engagements because the leadership team was not fully engaged. And that was hard. But at the end of the day, if you don't have that, and I know we've been saying that for the last couple of days, but like really, really buying in, pushing it, talking to people, speaking the right language. If they can't commit to that, they can't commit to the change.
So leadership buy-in is mentored from the beginning. Change happens top down. Gabby, you've had the opportunity to go in and consult, Fortune 500s, private companies that are in the multi-billion dollars, as well as small to mid-size. in your experience, when you walk into a company and they've got a problem and you're trying to set up from scratch, and do you have a similar approach, or what are the gaps in your approaches that are different when, when Go Lean It comes in?
Well, first is everybody's understanding about OPEX is not always very clear. A lot of people get asked for a project or a program or an initiative. And right off the back, if they're asked or their understanding is wrong, we need to clear that from the beginning, whether they're small.
So educating the customer on what is
educating,
operational
because,
excellence. Okay.
Operational excellence is really a cultural transformation for the organization as a person. So you're trying to distinguish yourself from a traditional organization where it's all about push, 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 and try to get output, and that's it. And employees, all their work is for the output and assuring that we reduce costs at the end of the day. To an organization that's a learning organization. So first off, the first thing that has to click in management head is, are we introducing a learning organization? Which means, are we investing in learning? Now, if an organization is not willing to invest in learning, it gets really hard going forward, because everything about operational excellence is, how do we create sustainable improvements?
Go Lean It. Go Lean It offers a symphony of efficiency through lean services and solutions, driving scalable and sustainable results. Visit goleanit.com.
So how are you going to create sustainable improvement without being in the DNA? So they have to be open to learning. That's the kind of the hard part, the mindset shift between a traditional and an OPEX.
So maturity mapping, making sure we got leadership buy-in, having a culture of learning, making sure that the definition of what operational excellence is one of the things that Gabby's bringing to the table, and saying, hey, I highly think that when leaders don't understand the concept, right? As leaders, if you own a company and you're bringing that problem, you're trying to hire consultants to help you, a little bit of homework would help. Now, part of it, what I do is I go in and educate the consultant, the business owner, because like you're saying, I think a big part of it, everybody's business is their baby. I think of my businesses. I started as a product guy. You guys both come from real operational excellence.
Yes.
I came in like the orphan child that was taken for the OPEX world. I'm a product guy, and every product guy, you're in love with your business. It's your baby. Nobody wants anyone to tell them their baby's ugly, but sometimes the baby is ugly. So how do you go in as a consultant? And I think the first thing, I like to use the maturity curve, business maturity curve, like you're saying. And I say, hey, look, if you're in heroics mode, which most companies are in, that means from a culture point of view, we normally are rewarding the heroes that come save the day. So the firefighters are constantly, so every time someone comes and they firefight and they save you, they're the guys that get the bonus. So we've created a culture all around heroics. How do I go from heroics to being standardized, process driven, and then go to continuous improvement? And that's where the education, and it's part of it. So that's kind of where I would go. Now, that being said, and I think, combination of all our answers kind of will get you on the right track. And if you hire a consultant, whether someone else or one of us, you'll most probably get someone that will come in. The first part is understanding your problem.
This podcast is sponsored by eSky, a revolutionary AI-powered state-of-the-art learning management system for small to mid-size enterprises.
When you come into a company, how do you get everyone to actually verbalize their problem statement properly? Because most time people talk to you about their symptoms,
That's an interesting one. Especially if you're in manufacturing and you go walk the floor, there's a million problems. But no one's working on them because they just gotten so used to complaining and telling people, and it starts falling on deaf ears. And what you have is you got new production managers, new, overseers, supervisors coming in, and they don't understand what's already happened. So they come in and they want to, I'm going to change the world. I'm going to take you guys out to pizza on Friday night and we're going to solve all these issues. And then that person starts getting busy with his actual job, and then the problems just keep continuing. So the main thing for us is to break that cycle and, spend time with the people, get to know the people. Like when I was a facilitator back in Australia, I spent all my time or most of my time on the shop floor, learning the processes, seeing what the guys are dealing with. working shifts with them. You got to understand.
But is that a cliche answer? Like, we just finished the conference and you walk out of people and everybody says, people, 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 people.
Yeah,
The
but
business owners, you walk with them, they'll tell you my people are everything.
yeah, or
And you're saying, how do you
or
get
you're
that
operating it.
properly? Exactly.
Yeah,
I just want to know like the actual tacticals of that. You walk into a company,
yeah.
the real truth about how you get your hands dirty, right? You get your
Oh, yeah.
full of oil.
But that's the thing, you go out there and you go join the guys, but then you start talking to the people, you get to know them, and you start learning that they've had issues for 20 years with this little red button that they're supposed to be pushing.
Yeah.
And you go, well, what does the red button do? And they go, well, I don't know. So that's where your problem solving culture comes into place. So we take the leaders, we start working on them, because the leaders need to be ahead of their teams. They shouldn't be learning with their teams. They need to know ahead of time what the teams are going to be going through and what they're going to be learning. So, and that's where a lot of our e-learning comes in, Malik's e-learning too, because we prepare people for the change that's coming. And if people, I always say, you're either on the bus or you're not. And if you're not on the bus, it's okay. It might take you a few steps to get onto the bus. But if you're not on the bus and you're not going to get on there and help us and, make sure that it's all going to happen, then perhaps you'll be happier somewhere else. And we can also help you with that. But at the end of the day, that's only happened to me like twice. I think usually people, they stir it up and it's this big deal because change is perceived as we're going to take stuff away.
Cancel.org, redefining global consulting, delivering world-class solutions through proven methodology, measurable and sustainable results.
Not like we're going to add stuff. And that's the modern misperception, I think, around change. Meantime, we've all got phones, we've all got, laptops, we've got technology everywhere. I've got a car that can drive itself. That's change. That's
So how do you handle when you say people? We say people is at the core, and you can jump in whenever you feel like again. But when people see consultants walking through the door, depending on the type of consultants, right? So if you see the McKenzies, the Canes and all this stuff, you're like, oh, layoffs are coming, because that's what people think, right? Reorg. When they see the OPEX guys, they're like, oh, they're gonna make us change how we live, how we operate. How do you handle the actual employees? How do you make people go through that journey so that there is not just engagement, but adoption?
Well, first of all, we don't make them go through it. We get them on board so that they want to do it.
Okay.
That's the main thing. And another reason why people are scared, and, big companies like EY, all those guys, I don't have a lot of time for that because all they want to come in and do is become part of the furniture and, get their company money out of all of this. They're great at PowerPoints, by the way. So if you want PowerPoints, you know where to go. But at the end of the day, for us, it's about community. It's about bringing the people together and teaching the people why they shouldn't be scared of this change and that they are going to be in control of the change. We're simply there to support them with our tools, with our knowledge and our experience to get them to the next phase.
Yeah.
And your whole idea, and this is Cancel's idea, and I know Gabby runs the same way. We're not here to become part of your company. We're here to help your company put sustainable results in place and then move on to a different company. And then if you have any issues, we come back. But you put a culture of learning in place where, even new employees have got standard work that they can follow up on. They've got their training that they have to do before they get into the job. It's like proper orientation. I mean, in my experience, the last few years, that's really fallen away. Like you start working at a company and the first day they send you a computer and off you go. These are the apps that you're going to use. Whereas it should be, this is the process. This is how we're working. Your laptop, this is what your laptop can do. Here's all the programs. Make people feel comfortable with. What do you think, Gabby?
Yeah, well, I think first off, it's a no-brainer to get the companies on board because at this point where we are, there's almost no choice, right? You're like you're in a competitive world where you're going to lose certain employees if you're not getting them engaged. So right off the bat, that's an easy target. You also have 90% waste in the organizations.
And you know what the worst thing is with that is you lose every time something like this happens, you lose your best people.
Yeah.
You guys heard that? 90% waste.
That's
90%
some of
waste
the best,
is
the most
money thrown
lean,
away.
that's some
You
of the
lose-
most lean organizations have 90% waste. There are other organizations. I mean, when I evaluate people's value stream end to end, I usually come out with close to 98% waste. So
Yeah.
it's not even hard to do that.
Do you assess just by questioning, or do you have an assessment tool that's a standardized tool
Well,
that allows you to?
there's a multiple ways to diagnose an organization.
Yeah.
But a nice visual, which a lot of the management like, is to actually walk the process and have it value streamed all the way. And so they can understand where are the waiting times that are happening in the organization. That's just a very tactical, straightforward way to see
And
the
it's
needs
tangible.
of the organization. And the
Yeah.
thing is, when you realize you're hiring a person to just run operation, then you've already ruined the potential of that person, because they're only really working to 10% of their potential.
Yeah.
So to transform that person into a problem solver, that's where you get the most out of it. One is they're going to stay in the company and they're going to be more engaged. And two, well, they're getting you all the benefits from improvements that the 90% that you're missing. Now, most of the management will never know the weights that are down there. They'll never know it
That's
unless
amazing.
they engage those employees that know that in the problem solving. And that's why we're here.
Go Lean It. Go Lean It offers a symphony of efficiency through lean services and solutions, driving scalable and sustainable results. Visit goleanit.com.
So do you think it's critical to have an OPEX office, or for a smaller company, have it part of the quality management system, and the quality organization is enough?
It's two different things. I mean, you
Yeah.
know, when you want to meet criteria for quality,
Mm.
that's, you know, you're trying to meet a standard for quality. That's different than having it within your culture and a way of working. You don't need a
Yep.
person to come and audit to tell you how to do things.
Yep.
OPEX is, hey guys, this is how we do things around here. You want to walk into a person and when they greet you, they say to you, you know, hey, let me show you the issues where they are. Let's make things very open, you know.
And you speak the same language. You know,
There's
it's like
candid environment. It's a candid environment. People are open.
people are open to talk. I mean, you referring back to one of your questions earlier. I mean, we used to call it the cockroach effect. You know, I was working at a company where we had a couple of people in our team, and every time you open up that office door to the factory, it's like the scattering effect. You know.
Yeah.
It's like when you open up the door and there's cockroaches, they just run away, and
Yeah,
that's it.
absolutely. Yeah.
But you know, when that turn has happened, when you open that door and people actually starts coming towards you, and they go, Rian, I've got a problem.
That's it.
I've already done 5 wires on it. I can't figure it out. Come and help me. That's when you know, and you like that little bulbs just go off everywhere, and you're like, wow, now finally we can get to work, because it takes time. I mean, everyone here, we're so used to instant gratification.
That's
But
it.
we expect someone's going to walk in and 2 days later, my business is going to be, 4x profit. It's like literally the fastest implementation I've done across the company with 15 packaging lines it took me 18 months, me and my team. We did 9,000 hours of training within the first 6 months, just to get people trained up, understanding the concepts. And the whole thing is that's where you need management support, because where are you going to get the time to train people for?
Yeah.
You got to plan it. You got to sit with the purchasing. You got to sit with, logistics. So there's all these behind the scenes that not a lot of people talk about for some reason.
Yeah, and people don't like look. It's normal that everybody feels they're proud of their baby. It's normal everybody's
yeah.
proud of their environment.
But the baby
It
grow up.
It
Yeah.
takes me 5 minutes to walk into an organization, and within the 5 minutes of walking through the door, I could tell if this is an OPEX organization
Yeah.
or it's a traditional organization. It's always one or two. You can see it. You can see the waste right off like the entrance as soon as you walk in, as opposed to, in an OPEX organization, you can see the energy of the organization. Of
Yeah.
So there's a
solving.
culture thing. So
There's a culture, but there's a very visual things as well. Very visual.
Yeah. You can tell
OPEX organization, they like the transparency to be everywhere as you're walking down the hall, as you're walking through the entrance. You will notice the KPIs, you'll focus the people's energy and discussing their problems. So you see it everywhere you go, in the
You know,
air you breathe.
You know what I like doing, Gabby, is I like, if I see people in a meeting, I simply walk in and just go join them.
That's it.
And if they ask me, what am I doing there? I'm saying, no, I'm just an observer. There was no notice on the door. So
Yeah,
just carry on doing what you're doing.
that's it.
And you'll be amazed with how many times I've been in meetings. And when I ask people, what's the purpose of this meeting? They cannot articulate it for me. So I usually push back and say, then why are you meeting? Because if you look at it, we've got 5 people here. Each one of you guys are getting paid 200K a year. So we got $1 million. You've just taken half an hour from each of those people to do what?
It's funny you said that because I just had an entire summit with my OPEX team. And the theme was, for sure, automation and transformation, because that's the age
Oh,
we're in, AI.
definitely. Yeah, yeah.
But literally half my slides were all about do everything with purpose.
Yeah.
If there's something the organization is doing and you can't pinpoint, stop. If there's a meeting, there's no purpose, stop.
Get it away.
If nobody sends you beforehand, what is this meeting about? Just decline.
This podcast is sponsored by eSky, a revolutionary AI-powered state-of-the-art learning management system for small to mid-size enterprises.
That's
Decline it,
okay.
Yeah.
Get everyone in the habit.
That's the only way you get to change these perceptions, because people just send out meetings. There's like literally 3 reasons you should have a meeting.
And we'll have a podcast at some point that we
Yeah,
talk
just
about
talking about
OPEX meetings.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because OPEX meetings is a big topic, but technically, if you're implementing good OPEX meetings, it almost eliminates all other meetings.
Exactly.
So there is a standard way of running meetings across an organization.
Yeah.
And if most of the meetings should be around problem solving.
Nice.
If
So
not,
let's
then there is no purpose. For it.
Let's save that one, because
Yeah,
that's,
it's gonna be another.
I'm very passionate about
Yeah.
that
To
topic.
wrap this up, I'll give everybody 2 minutes to wrap up. You walk in the door, you get hired. In addition to what you've said, what would be your next steps and where you see culture playing a role, and the CEO or the hiring person that's hiring the consultant they should do?
Yep.
2 minutes, and each one of us will do it, and then we'll be ready for the next one after that. All right?
Yeah, man. So look, for me, Malik, basically, I mean, at the end of the day, I've walked into a lot of factories, a lot of offices. We've, you can walk in and sometimes you can already feel the energy.
That's it. Absolutely.
I'm not saying I'm a psychic or anything. I'm probably the furthest thing from that, but you can really see it in the way that people look at you when you walk in. You can feel the vibes. You can see their meetings last for an hour and a half for a management meeting every day. My first step is to build confidence in my abilities.
Yeah.
So to interject myself, into meetings where the COO, the CEO, the senior leadership team is, and I become part of that team, and they start trusting me and relying on me. Instead of thinking that I'm an advisor, I become part of that team, and I can infiltrate from the inside. And this is also something in my career that I figured out. I was a lean facilitator, a lean manager, lean leader. I was over Asia Pacific at a stage. But at the end of the day, if you don't relate to the people and there's culture, there's all kinds of stuff. And if you don't insert yourself in there, people are not going to trust you. And the job just became a lot harder.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's very important for me. It's one of those things that I cherish the relationships with people, because that's where the change starts.
Nice. Thank you. Gabby?
Yeah, well, look, at Go Lean It, we have really 3 levers we try to attack. One is the purpose. Want to just assure no matter what size of organization, where are we heading? And are we creating a strategy for the organization that is embedding OPEX in the culture, embedding a continuous improvement organization? That's really the first hurdle we try to get. Second is the process, right? Are you thinking of institutionalizing continuous improvement in every process of your organization? That's our second point. Now, that's like 2, check 1, purpose, check 2, processes, definitely. And step 3 is your people. Are you going to develop your people to become problem solvers? And not one person.
Well,
Not one person.
not just your people. Are you going to develop yourself too?
The whole
whole
environment.
And
the
your
whole-
suppliers.
Your ecosystem, no, as
Oh, yeah.
far as you can see and
Yeah.
reach. So, it starts off in maturities. So it's not day one, but it's the utopia. We're trying to think of ideal states. So you got them to think further as a vision, 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
Will you have those three components? And are they able to jump onto those three components? Because they're essential,
Yeah.
right? Like it's like a car. You're not, no engine, it's not gonna go. Without the wheels, you're not going. So it's a whole body. So
So I love the fact that you said it's a whole body, and to conclude and summarize with that, I like to think of a company as a person. And I think what ends up happening, some people go on these lose weight things where they come up with all these fads, right?
Oh, yeah.
And they'll go and they'll lose 20 pounds here, then they'll put it up again. But you want your company to be like this? So the people that are actually I've known that were successful, and we were talking about this a few minutes before we started the podcast, is
Yeah.
hey, are you changing your lifestyle? When you talk about lifestyle, think of that as a culture. Okay. So everybody, the suppliers, everything, what we want to do with this type of podcast, and I've learned a lot, right? I've learned you walk in, you can first make sure the problem statement is good. There's buy-in from the leaders. We want to map, we want a value stream. We want to make sure people are educated. People. More important to me, the reason you're going to get tuned into this, we want to go past the cliches. It's so easy to say culture will eat strategy for breakfast. What does that actually mean? Okay, we want to go past the pretty PowerPoint slides because I can't stand them anymore. I walk into board meetings and you got all these pretty pictures. What do you do with them at the end? You want to know what to do? Tune up with us, ring that bell, subscribe, follow us on LinkedIn, follow us on all the social medias. We're out there with our companies, Cancel, eSky, and Go Lean It. We can't wait to bring you more stars in our skies. There are guests coming up in the next few ones, all real stars who have made actual change. That have saved companies millions and millions of dollars. Can't wait to have you guys with us soon. All right. Thank you.
Cool. Cheers, man.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gabby.